Hey. Wagwan, what y'all dealing?
My people still waiting, while the folks still hating. It's a new generation.
Yo. So it's a phrase that keep popping up, right? Now this phrase is not new, but it's popping back up now because all of the stories that are happening right now. Stories include the situation with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, the situation with Cassie and Diddy, and the situation with Halle Bailey and DDG. What do all of these have in common? The victims, so to speak, of these stories are all women. The term that is coming back up now is believe all women. Believe all women? Believe all women?
Not today, Satan.
Is out. The term is associated with the Me Too movement. And though the founder of the Me Too movement actually went back and corrected and said, I ain't say all of that, it still is associated with the Me Too movement.
Something and tell us what it means.
I'm so glad you asked that because that, first of all, that phrase does not come from me or the Me Too movement. I do not subscribe to the phrase believe all women. That has been ascribed to me. I've never said it. I say believe survivors. As a Black woman, I would never, in America, I would never say believe all women. What we were saying in the beginning is believe survivors. The reason why we say believe survivors, and what that means is start from the premise that survivors are telling the truth. Because for years, when survivors came forward, we were not believed. And if you start with the premise that survivors are telling the truth, that means that you will investigate thoroughly, right? And you will start and you will give them the space that you give a person that you believe, right? That means that you will say, okay, if I believe you, then I'm going to take you seriously. As a Black woman in America, believing all women means that I believe Emmett Till's white lady, right? I believe all these white women that try to undermine Black men. I would never, ever say believe all women. It's racist. It's so fraught with it's so problematic.
In essence, believe all women can end up being a dangerous thing to just kind of take at face value. So this phrase is coming back around because of the three stories that I mentioned in the beginning of that. And if you notice, I use the word victim with quotations. The reason why is because in all of these cases, there's some arguability about the validity of the victimization of the women, right? Like, something in the milk ain't clean. The stories don't all add up or sound all the way correct. Now, of course, we dealing with celebrities, so ain't no telling what all was in the mix as it relates to that, right? However, believe all women indicates that if a woman says something happened to her, if she said that she was violated, you should just believe her because she's a woman. I'm going to come at this conversation very carefully because I know that, I was in a situation of being sexually assaulted at one point in my life. A lot of the people who were around and who were involved or who allowed things to happen, kind of just made up some stuff and just was like, well, maybe you just was out here in these streets. And after a while, you stop telling what happened because you don't feel like nobody's going to believe you. As a matter of fact, you just go ahead and just move on with life because, nobody's gonna believe what you say. The concept of asking questions, if it's something that really happened, should not be offensive. Being able to ask questions if somebody is saying that something happened, rather than just believing it outright that it happened just because they said that it happened, should not be something that makes people feel away. Now, the craziest part is that I do know that things happen to women and people don't believe them. So I do understand that that's true. And I have to say that first and foremost, that I do understand the truth for that and the reason for that statement. However, believe all women is crazy because on the flip side to that, the one thing that I also know is that it's some dirty, lying, trifling hoes out here. And there's some women that will use the fact that the phrase believe all women exists in order to get some men in jail.
Y'all ready to get clocked?
And I'm going to tell you this, it's been a whole lot of situations where this has been the case. Too many for you to ignore it and then put the phrase believe all women as if we should just believe a woman because she's a woman and on the merit of the fact that she's a woman. She's saying that she was victimized. She's saying somebody abused her. She is right. She's a woman.
Idiot.
The whole thing is that there's two sides to a story. And a lot of the time when we hear the story of these women, and I'm going to say since we didn't got into the Me Too movement and everything like that, this time period, right? The whole thing is that it's brought things to the opposite extreme. So when we're looking at the fact that, yes, there were, all these years of women not being heard and all of this stuff, which is true, right? However, we also have to look at the fact that we know that there are white women who lied on Emmett Till. We know it's white women who lied and said that they got raped by basketball players and they didn't. We know that it's black women who was saying that something happened to them when actually they started a fight with somebody and they tried to call the police and say that they got abused. We know all of this stuff happened. We know that there are qualities inside of some women that no, you should not trust their ass. And with that being the case, I think that we have to really be able to look at the terminology behind believe all women and understand that this is not a definite. You know what I'm saying? When I hear people bringing this term up as it relates to all of these things that have supposedly happened to these celebrity women, number one, again, we're talking about celebrities, so we have no idea what really is going on. But bringing it up in collaboration with some of these stories can be dangerous because upon asking questions, just like in a lot of these instances, you might find out more than what you originally outright thought. Y'all, I had to get that one out, okay? And this is something that I know is going to be controversial because in all senses, it's something that has just become universal law to just say women should just be believed because they're women. There is not a universal law as it relates to women are telling the truth. Women are the victims. Women are not doing anything wrong. Women are always the ones that are being abused. Women are always the ones that are right. And I think that it's a destructive way of thinking because then you have women who may not be telling the truth, women who do not have good intentions, women who are saying these things just to get them in jail, in trouble, whatever the case may be. And they're allowed to do this just off of the fact that they women.
Clock it!
If you show up to a fight, a domestic violence dispute, you automatically assume that the man put his hands on the woman. You can see him sitting there dripping blood and everything, and she's perfectly fine. And you can still believe that he was beating her ass. But the craziest part about it is that we don't evaluate these things and ask questions. I refuse to believe anybody without asking questions. Okay? So when that comes down to it, no, I'm not going to believe a woman just on the merit that she's a woman. No, if I hear a story, I'm going to try to find out the other side of the story because believe all women is flawed in its inception. That's the reason why even the leader of the Me Too movement didn't want to be associated with it. All right, that's all I had to say, baby. I'm just saying. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I mean, what do you think about this? Because as me hearing this term come back around, I want to know what y'all think. This is kind of crazy to me, but I do want to hear y'all's opinion. So drop what you think in the comments and let me know.
I don't need no negativity around me. High frequency.